but we just did a dive into the research that as students participate in school breakfast, they perform better academically. They have higher graduation rates. So there's definitely an academic tie to it.
I love hearing about all the innovative recipes out there because so many people don't get that the meals these kids are getting in a lot of school districts are legit.
Yes.
Like, because that's innovative. I want to go eat lunch at your school today.
So how do I make our students feel welcomed when they come into our cafeterias and through our lunch lines? How do I bring out the different cultures that we represent? Because we're a very diverse district. How do I represent those different cultures within our districts?
A American Dairy Association Indiana activation is what we would call it, where a milk person is chosen, and it is actually their job to take the milk at the end of the Indy 500 and hand it off to the winning driver.
Welcome to the Next Up podcast. I am super excited about this episode. We are going to be talking about milk, and as you guys know, I love milk. So let's go ahead, let's start. Let's go around the table, get some introductions for the people that may not know you, guys that should know you. So Katie, you want to start?
Sure. Katie Bambacht. I'm Vice President of Nutrition Affairs with National Dairy Council. National Dairy Council is a nonprofit organization, and we focus on nutrition research and education. And we were founded and funded by America's dairy farmers.
I have so many questions for you that we're going to get to later.
Okay.
I can't wait. All right, Brittany?
My name is Brittany Jointer. I'm the Child Nutrition Director for Wayne Township Schools in Indianapolis, Indiana. We serve about 16,000 students. We are an all CEP district, which means we give all meals free for our students. And this is about my third year being in the role as a director.
Oh, how are you liking it?
It is tough, but I love it.
What did you do before?
I was assistant director for 8 years.
Okay.
So in Indianapolis in another district.
All right, and then before that, what did you do?
I was at the state for about a year and a half at the state level, and it was nice. And it was like my first real job out of college. And but throughout my career, I've been in school nutrition.
So you definitely know your stuff.
Yeah.
DOE, multiple districts.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
all right, cool.
Yes.
I'm going to learn a lot from you.
Yes.
All right, Sheri Shipp.
Hi, my name is Sheri Shipp, and I am the Youth Wellness Manager for the American Dairy Association Indiana. I work with 8 very passionate people who love dairy farming and dairy farm families, and that's what I do.
So what exactly is youth management?
Okay, so youth wellness.
Youth wellness, excuse me.
Yeah, youth wellness manager.
Wellness.
So I work primarily like in the K-12 space. Sometimes different programs that affect youth as well, like YMCA, Boys and Girls Club. We do a lot of different things within the K-12 world, but yeah, that's what I do.
Okay, what did you do before that?
Oh, okay. So before that, I was actually the executive director for the Indiana School Nutrition Association. So it's been a really good transition because I know a lot of people already in the K-12 area, school food service.
So
And
you're saying you're popular? That's what you tried to say.
Some
He's
people
popular.
might say I'm popular. I did not say I'm popular. But no, it actually has been very beneficial because I do know so many people. And I also, before I was the executive director, I was an assistant director in a school district in Indianapolis. So it's been 11 years since I've done that, so things have changed quite a bit, but I kind of get like, at least understand the challenges, the
You can relate.
opportunities. Yeah, I can relate, so.
Cool. All right, so Katie, big question.
Yes.
What's the
I'm
deal
ready.
with milk? What are the benefits of milk, and why should students be drinking more milk, or even me?
Yeah, well, when I think of milk is part of the dairy food group. So that includes milk, cheese, and yogurt. They all have a number of health benefits, but milk specifically, it really is a nutrient powerhouse. It has 13 essential nutrients in one serving of milk. And these nutrients provide a wealth of benefits. For example, protein. Milk has high quality protein, which helps build and repair muscle tissue. You have vitamin D and calcium, which we all know very well. It helps build and maintain strong bones and teeth. And then you have a slew of vitamins, protein, zinc, selenium, vitamin A, and vitamin D, which helps support a healthy immune system, which is really important in the current environment coming out of COVID. And then there's a lot of B vitamins in milk, which help your body convert food into fuel. So dairy foods are just packed with a lot of nutrients that help children grow. And we know especially school-age children, they are growing their minds, bodies, and bones. And it's really essential for them to get their recommended servings of dairy every day. And also, dairy foods have proven to shown and to have lifelong health benefits as you consume them throughout life. So setting yourself up for long-term benefits such as reduced risk of overweight, type 2 diabetes, hypertension, stroke, metabolic syndrome, cardiovascular disease. There are a lot of long-term benefits that if you consume dairy products, sets yourself up for a long time of health and wellness. But unfortunately, what we know is that children and adults are not consuming the recommended amounts of dairy. So the dietary guidelines for Americans recommend 3 servings of dairy every day. Unfortunately, by the age of 4, children are under-consuming dairy. And it's further under-consumed by people of color. So there's some disparities there.
Do we know why at that age children just drop off the dairy train?
We don't. And I mean, it could be for a number of reasons. Access, your environment that you're in, having products that your body can digest and are acceptable. But, you know, it's not just a dairy problem. So if you look across all food groups, Americans are also under-consuming fruits, vegetables, whole grains. So there's a lot of work we can do to help better our diet and overall nutrition to align more with the MyPlate or the dietary guidelines for Americans.
Yeah. So whenever you mentioned the vitamin D thing, it got me thinking. My mom is always telling me to go out in the sun and get more vitamin D, right? So, and because, you know, I'm of African descent, I have darker skin, so I need more sun to get vitamin D. So you're telling me instead of baking in the hot Florida sun, I could just drink a glass of milk?
So you can definitely have some dairy products to help with your vitamin D levels.
Okay, cool. Do you have a lot of athletes that are consuming milk for fuel for after school activities and that sort of thing?
Yeah, so milk, I mentioned, has that high quality protein, and not all protein is created equal. There's what they call the PDCAAS score, but it's around the protein quality. And 1 serving of milk has 8 grams of protein, and so it can help fuel your day. And it's looking at school breakfast, you know, protein or meat alt is not a requirement, but milk is offered and is a requirement. So it's a great source of protein for students as they start their day to help them feel full and provide that sense of satiety throughout the school day to better position them for learning and their academic day ahead of them.
Yeah. So Brittany, are you serving, well, obviously you're offering milk to your students, but are they taking it?
Yes, they do, actually. So at Wayne Township, we offer, we do breakfast, we have lunch, we do supper. So that's where a lot of our athletes, because, you know, that's where they participate. And we also do after-school snack, and we also participate in the summer servings meals. And so I just recently looked at how much we purchase on milk, and we spend about $65,000 a month just for our dairy, for our milk. Milk, let alone
Just fluid milk, right?
just fluid milk.
So that doesn't even count when you're doing smoothies
Cheese
and
or,
parfaits
yogurts
and cheese and,
no.
things like that. It's great.
No.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
Yes.
So, how do the local dairy association support school districts?
Oh my goodness, in so many ways. I can just highlight maybe a couple of things because if
No, I
not,
want
I
the
would
whole
just go
list.
on for this. No, you don't want this. So we have the opportunity locally. Again, like I said, I know a lot of people, but to me, the first
Yes,
thing
Sheri, we know you're popular.
no, you really have to build good relationships.
Yeah.
So being a registered dietitian, working for the Dairy Association, I think it gives us a good opportunity to share science-based nutrition information. And you gain that trust from the people that you're working with. And then it's a lot easier to go into a school district and start talking about all those benefits that Katie was talking about before.
So are you talking to kids or the staff?
Both, actually. It's usually the staff because, if you're teaching the teachers of, whatever's happening, then they can disseminate all the information to the kids. So it's, I think, better to maybe start at the adult level. And we don't just do school nutrition stuff. So we also talk to actual educators, so science classes, teaching about dairy farming in general, and how does your milk get from the farm to the fridge? What are all the processes involved? And then also in the K-12 space, we've been, and you mentioned about athletes. So I've been talking recently to athletic directors, coaches, because they don't have the expertise or the time to really like dive into the nutrition part of things. They're trying to get the kids at workouts, practices, but when you talk about fueling their performance, you can work out all day and do all the things that you should be doing in the weight room, but if you're not then recharging, refueling, then it's kind of for naught.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of, back to what we do in nutrition, we do a lot of education.
Okay.
So without the education piece, it's kind of hard to get people to understand how important it is to consume dairy products, and actually just any, Katie mentioned earlier, there's other parts of the My Plate that people are lacking in. So even kind of trying to figure out how do you educate on bringing those food groups together, like we talk sometimes about like the dairy plant marriage, I like to call it. So
what is that?
Educating like on how can you put the two things together, like in smoothies, yogurt parfaits. Recently we did like a yogurt bark where you just freeze yogurt with fruit in it and granola. So just different innovative ways to get kids to consume.
Where can I go to try this yogurt bark? That sounds delicious.
Well, I made it at my house. So come on down to
Can you send me
Indiana.
some?
Yeah. And the kids love it. But so granting equipment to school nutrition programs is something that our farmers really want to do. They want to invest in K-12 because they know those are the students that are up and coming. Those are the future consumers. And they need to be well, they need to have good nutrition. So we are able to go into schools, kind of look at, well, what does their program look like? Where are there opportunities to grow maybe their breakfast program? Because as Katie mentioned, they got to start their day out well. And if Brittany can have the best breakfast menu in the country, but if the kids can't get to that cafeteria to grab their breakfast, then they don't have time, they have to get to class. And those are things that school nutrition programs don't have control over. So what we do is kind of go in and look at, like, how can I fill a gap for her that's out of her control? So for instance, I would go in and say, okay, let's do a breakfast cart where you can actually roll all the components, including your fluid milk, down to where the kids are coming in. So you just increase the accessibility of the meal. We've done, I did a yogurt, what did I call it? A mobile yogurt parfait cart. And I actually just talked to somebody this last week, and their participation, just because they rolled it down to where the buses let out, their participation went up right away by like 50%.
Really?
But it leveled off, which that's expected. I mean, I think the novelty of something new is like really cool, but it leveled off at 25% increase in breakfast.
That's still huge.
It's huge. I mean, this director was just ecstatic. And then at that point that how many more kids are getting a good start at the day. So that's just one of the things that we're really involved with doing.
So Brittany, has the Dairy Council filled any gaps for you?
Yes, they actually have. We recently got a blender from a grant that we applied for with Sheri. And so we have used that blender to create different recipes. We did like a red pepper cream sauce that we're going to put over pasta. We have tried a couple of different smoothie recipes. We did a strawberry banana peanut butter smoothie.
Oh. Wow.
That sounds really good.
Yes. And a hot chocolate smoothie. And we also, this is what I would like to use it a little bit more effectively at the high school, is we have a lot of dysphagia diets. And so to use that to make their meals, because we use milk, we use yogurts to parade their diet. So I would like to use that a little bit more effectively at the high school.
I love hearing about all the innovative recipes out there because so many people don't get that the meals these kids are getting in a lot of school districts are legit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, because that's innovative.
Yes.
I want to go eat lunch at your school today.
Yes. To keep everything creative, we try to stay with the trends and keep everybody involved. We recently did a recipe contest with managers. This is the second year in a row that we've done it. And once we get them involved, we put their menu ideas on our menu. And it just keeps going, and it's very competitive. So it's something that it's one of my favorite meetings out of the year, that we actually sit and taste everybody's recipe and we judge it.
So how do you structure that? I'm curious.
Well, I have a strong team. And so my main office consists of myself, an assistant director. I have a staff dietitian on staff that does a lot of the special diets, and I have 2 site supervisors and 2 support staff administrators, assistants. And so with them, we all collaborate together to get with our managers and just set up time. And if I have the staff dietitian that works with them to create their recipes and what the items that they need. And we come together and we all just have it's like a big party, honestly. It's a big taste sampling, and we just all leave very full. And it's so exciting to see the exciting faces light up when they actually announce that you're the winning recipe, and we highlight it next semester on their menu.
So are you sharing stuff like that with your community?
Not like I should. And that is something that I would like to improve on, our social media presence, because if anything, who is going to support us and advocate for us, more than ourselves? So that is something that I really, truly want to boost.
Yeah, that'd be great. Maybe the Dairy Council could help you out with that.
Well, and I was just going to say, too,
Yeah.
the really cool thing about school nutrition. So I've been in school nutrition for years, right? And I think the reason I never leave is because it's like a community. It really is. And so Brittany's assistant, or your staff dietitian, Amanda, she sent me this recipe and a picture like, hey, look what I did with the blender that we got for the grant. So what do? I make it look all fancy, and I send it out to all the other food
You
service
made it look
directors.
fancy, or someone else made it look fancy?
Okay.
I'm going to harass her the entire podcast.
Possibly someone else.
Your team, someone on your team.
Someone. Anyway, so the cool part is you can share those things. Brittany is not competing with her district down the road. Like, they all want to share things. So that's the benefit of, like, when we do our grants, we do want information back. We want to know, like, does this grant help you feed more kids? Did this grant help get those 13 essential nutrients into the bodies of your students? And we also want to know, like, will you share what you did with it? Like, because there's no reason to keep that to yourself,
Absolutely.
Same as, like, trying to tell your community about what you're doing. So I think school nutrition is just the best.
It is the best,
Yeah,
hands
it's the
down.
best.
Yeah.
I'll add so part of our work at National Dairy Council is we have national partnerships, and one of our main partners is the School Nutrition Association. And in having conversations with them a few years ago, they referenced that schools really need marketing resources and tools. They don't have graphic designers, they don't have people to build out those social copy messages. And so we partnered with SNA to do a campaign. It's an educational awareness campaign, Made with School Lunch, with a purpose to educate educators and community members, parents, students about the positive benefits and outcomes made possible by participating in school meal programs. Because people don't know that school meals are healthy and they taste good, and there's plenty of research out there to show the health benefits of school meals. And if children participate, they consume more dairy, they consume more fruit, they consume more vegetables than non-participants, which is what I talked about, we're under-consuming in our diets. So they are a pathway to help children meet their recommendations from a dietary standpoint. So there's so many health benefits, and just having those tools to communicate them out is something that we're hoping to provide as a resource to schools.
Yeah, and that's also something that we provide too. So like when you tell me you're doing all these amazing things, like I want to promote that for you. So like we'll all help you guys get the message out there, because we have to control, the story, the narrative of child nutrition. I mean, you guys are the ones in it, and we just want to help you, promote.
Yes,
Yeah.
I am very excited. Something I was looking into is doing a promotional video for our department, and just to advocate for us and show what we do. So I'm very excited about the next step and trying to do something like that.
So shameless plug, because it's my podcast. We can do that for you.
There you go. I'll be reaching out.
All right.
Well, and it's kind of cool to see how, Brittany is wanting to elevate what she does, and that's kind of at a local dairy association level. That's what we do. So we elevate what dairy farm families do every day. They're kind of busy people.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know this. Have you
Yeah.
ever been on a dairy farm?
I have not, but I'm waiting for an invite. Come on,
What?
ladies. Let's make this happen.
So that's another thing we do. In youth wellness, yes, we do like physical farm visits, but it's usually with like food service directors or thought leaders in like school nutrition. But we do a lot of virtual farm tours.
I want to be there in
know if you've
person.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
There's something to like really seeing the work that's being done. It's just it's like a whole new level of care, like the way the farmers care for their animals, for their land. They're like the original sustainable
Yeah.
programs,
So
I guess.
when you say virtual farm tours, are you talking like virtual reality, like I put on a headset? Because that could be kind of cool. If I
could be
can't be there in
cool.
person, it'd be cool to be there like virtually.
Okay, well, that'll be your next project. But what we
Sounds like
do
fun. I may know a guy.
in Indiana and a lot of other states do virtual farm tours. And we just had one last week, actually, to celebrate Earth Day. And the really awesome thing about it is they don't have to be on the farm, but like we have somebody taping and you are talking to a dairy farmer. So the dairy farmer this time, she went around and like you can show what they eat. So she goes over how their mixed ration is made, what the cows are eating, how they live, like what their bedding looks like, how they're milked, how often they're milked, and just like how sustainable dairy farming really is. And the cool part, though, is Brooke, our communications director, she reported there were like 20 states. So it's not just Indiana, because the people that that do the virtual farm tours, they put it out to their whole network. We had people from California watching, Nebraska, Indiana, like all the different states, and that represented like 4,000 kids.
Wow.
So we couldn't get 4,000 kids out on a farm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be a nightmare. It would be fun, but I think
it'd be fun, all
logistically
right.
a nightmare. But then the really cool thing is then that brings in the educators too, because the educators typically have never been on a farm and they're seeing what's happening on the farm, and then they can do other things in their classroom that like bring light to agriculture and farming and where their food comes from, because there are so many kids that they think milk literally comes from the grocery store or from the carton in the
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So how can directors out there get a hold of you guys to maybe like get more information about a tour?
I should have brought a QR code for my newsletter.
Just put it up. There are, along with Sheri, there's 16 local dairy councils across the United States. So Sheri is representing the American Dairy Association of Indiana, but there's a network of dairy councils, whether individual states or regions. And so we do suggest people reach out to their local dairy council. They all have different initiatives and way of doing dairy farms or virtual dairy farm tours. So they are a key resource to start with, and I would recommend starting with them. But they are the boots on the ground. They have the local relationships. They connect with schools. They connect with local communities, doing exactly the same thing Sheri is doing in Indiana, providing nutrition education, providing resources to local community members to help them lead a healthier lifestyle, inclusive of dairy. So a lot of Sheris out there in this.
And we all share.
Yeah.
Which is really great.
We do.
Like, what are you guys doing in this space right now? And so that's another beautiful thing about.
Yeah.
So what is the difference between your organization and then Sheri's organization?
Yeah, so I'm with National Dairy Council. So again, we're both funded by farmers, but they're separate entities. But we work very collaboratively and together around the same initiatives, the same educational focus areas and programs. So separate, but very collaboratively together.
So it's kind of similar to like SNA and state, or like the national SNA and state associations in a way?
Yes, I would say so. They're like affiliates.
Okay.
I mean, is that
No, I
the
think
right
that's an
word?
appropriate way to frame it.
Yeah. And to your point, too, again, it's kind of like the same that I used to work with SNA, with ISNA. You know, National Dairy Council will do pilot programs.
Yeah.
And you can, I don't know if you want to speak to
No,
that.
we're going to talk
but
about that.
when they do pilot programs, you know, we don't have the capacity to do things like that in Indiana. I mean, we, like Katie mentioned, in Indiana, we're just the state of Indiana. So we don't have like an entire region. And there's only 8 of us on the team. So doing a large pilot, like she'll explain, I'm sure in a minute, helps us, because then we take those findings and can either develop a program or go out and educate about it, just based on what they do. So that's a way that I would say we benefit from having the national.
Gotcha. Well, let's talk about this pilot. I have a good friend, Michael Rosenberger, Dallas ISD, and I think it must have been 2 years ago or so, he was going on and on about this shelf-stable milk thing, and it was right around this time, actually, that I met a company called Tetra Pak at National Restaurant Association. We were doing a job for Nation's Restaurant News, and we were filming in their booth. And we got to talking. You know me, I'm kind of nosy, and I want to know everything about everyone. And he mentioned Dallas ISD, and I'm like, what are you guys doing in Dallas ISD? Well, apparently they were providing the cartons that the milk was going in for this new pilot that Michael had just told me about recently. So I was super interested, and it keeps popping up, and I was like, I got to get the dairy people on a podcast so we can kind of chat about this, because I want to hear what's going on.
Yeah. So as Sheri mentioned, part of what we do is test out models or pilots or case studies. Because thinking about schools, every school's different. There's no one approach that's going to work best for all schools. And so we know some schools, fresh milk is golden, is what they utilize. It works really well. Some schools will utilize shelf-stable milk. Some schools will utilize milk dispensing. We have some schools using the plastic bottles still, some using pouches. So there's a wide variety of tools and options that schools have available to them. But when we're thinking about telling the story of these options, we need to have these pilots or case studies or best practices to share on. This is how it was implemented. This is how it worked. These were some of our key findings. So we embarked in school year 21-22 to do a pilot introducing shelf-stable school milk into 2 schools in Utah and 1 school in Texas, and the Texas was Dallas ISD. But before we get into those findings, I do think it's important to clarify what shelf-stable milk is.
Can I say what I thought it was when I first heard
yes,
it?
I'm so curious.
This will be fun.
Yeah.
I feel so dumb.
Yeah.
So I thought it was like a powdered milk.
Yeah.
That's what I thought it was, because growing up as a kid, sometimes my parents had powdered milk, like in Jamaica, like they have powdered milk, right? So that's what I thought it was. And then I was actually going through some notes the other day, and I was like, oh, it's not powdered milk.
It's not.
It's not.
No, it's not. And there's nothing wrong with powdered milk. It nourishes a lot of people. But shelf-stable milk is regular cow's milk. It's just processed and packaged a little bit differently. So for processing, it's heated to a higher temperature for a longer shelf life. And for packaging, it's in a sterile, airtight container that doesn't require refrigeration. So it can go in and out of the refrigerator, which is really nice from a storage standpoint. We know schools really struggle with refrigeration space. So having your milk be available to be in a dry storage and then just put in the cooler right before service.
So how many times can you go back and forth? Like, is it like one of those things where, like, leftovers, you shouldn't reheat your leftovers more than twice, or it'll ruin it?
It can go in and out. Yeah. It can go in and out.
I learned that from you last night.
As long as you haven't opened the container, it's contained. So it's a very flexible product, which is great. And it works with a lot of different models of service. But going back to the pilots and some of those findings, we saw some really interesting things. So this is why Michael is probably so excited. We saw an increase in milk consumption and an increase in ADP. So in Dallas specifically, they saw a 12% increase in milk consumption, and a 9% increase in average daily participation, which is huge. And when we looked at the districts in Utah, they saw a 10% increase in consumption and 3% increase in ADP. So again, similar results, different state. And then also when we looked at milk waste, we saw the kids were drinking more of the milk. So overall, there was a 5% decrease in milk waste. And then thinking about cost savings. So, I think people are a little bit scared about shelf-stable milk because of the cost, but cost is very much regional, and so the prices may fluctuate. But in Dallas and some of the Utah districts, we saw cost savings through a decrease in administrative cost, not having to input all those milk invoices that you're receiving throughout the week, decrease in utility costs from a refrigeration standpoint, decrease in delivery costs because you don't have to have as many deliveries throughout the week because it's a shelf-stable product. And then lastly, there's a decrease in over-the-road miles. So you have less trucks on the road, positive benefits in the environmental impact there. So there was a lot of good positive findings from that pilot, which I'm sure this is why you've heard so much about it.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So does anybody, like SNA or you guys or anybody, have any information on the correlation between increased ADP and student GPAs? Because, I mean, if kids are eating more, they're especially breakfast. They're fueled throughout the day. They're ready to learn. And I would love to see like, well, how much smarter are these kids becoming from eating breakfast?
Yeah, there's definitely studies out there. We just put out an effort. We called it the Road to School Breakfast. But we just did a dive into the research that if students participate in school breakfast, they perform better academically. They have higher graduation rates. So there's definitely an academic tie to it from a learning and better outcomes from educational standpoint. And that's the type of things that your administrators really like to hear about. And I'm sure Sheri or you could speak to that more when you're thinking about implementing a breakfast program. You really need to talk about the educational benefits of fueling your day for learning. Because it does have a lot of not just the education type, but like mood and behavior. Like there's a lot of things associated with having a healthy breakfast.
Nobody wants a hangry middle schooler.
Well,
I
nobody
don't.
No, and I've also seen studies about decreased absenteeism because they know, especially in a school district where it's all free.
Yes.
Because whether you have it at home or not, you're going to get it at school.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We recently in Wayne, we just dealt with the whole, it was really brought to light, the shelf-stable milk. Recently, there was an issue with shortage of regular milk cartons. And so the company that we purchased from couldn't get the regular milk carton. So therefore, we had to look for other options. And shelf-stable milk was the other option. So it was very abrupt, and I mean, we had to have milk.
Yeah.
But now it's like, now that it's brought to light, now I'm looking into, do I use this for summer feeding? Do I use this for field trips? I just gave the approval literally yesterday for a school I said, just use shelf-stable milk, look up the pricing. I'm willing to pay a little bit more, so now that I know the milk is safe. So it has broadened my light to shelf-stable milk, so I'm excited about that.
Does it taste the same?
It was good to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of people think there's been a lot of innovation in the production of lactose-free, shelf-stable milk. And I think people think like what they've had 20 years ago, it's a different product in the market than you're going to, than you may remember trying way back when.
Just like school meals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People think it's the same as it used to be, and it's just not.
It's not.
Well, and to your point about the shelf-stable, there are just different opportunities to use it. So you could use like a fresh milk during your lunch and your supper program or whatever, but I do know a lot of people in Indiana that have switched to the shelf stable for breakfast in the classroom because at that point you don't have to be concerned about temperature abuse because if there is temperature abuse because it goes out to the classroom and then comes back, it might affect the product, the integrity of it, and you don't know that because it's contained, right? So I don't know. I think it takes a little bit of the like headache for
myself,
your staff and for you, just being sure that it's a safe product, and like summer feeding as well. It's just a good option to have. So I think it's not for everyone and it's not for everything.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Can you use it as an ingredient in a recipe like you would regular milk? Is it just like regular milk?
Yes.
Yeah?
I was gonna. Yes. Nutritionally, it is exactly the same.
Okay.
Yep.
Next question. How are districts serving the milk? Are they serving it like room temperature, like when the milkman comes to your
I
house and
hope
drops
not.
off the milk?
For me, when we had to go to Chef Stable for a while, I told all the managers when it first comes in, throw it in the refrigerator.
Okay.
And then put it in the milk cooler just like you would the milk that you would get normally. So we still serve it cold.
Okay.
And we know kids like milk cold,
Yes.
and that's a very American thing. We like our milk cold. So it's definitely recommended to still serve the cold milk. But what's nice is you don't have to store it all in the refrigerator until, it's about time for service.
Okay. Are districts offering lactose-free milk?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
So for us, you have to have a doctor statement, and we'll provide the milk that the doctor recommends. But yes, we do offer it.
Yeah. Also, we love our pilots, and so we are doing a pilot right now. We actually started in fall of 2023 with Cincinnati Public Schools.
Oh, Jessica Shelley?
Jessica Shelley.
That's my homegirl.
Yep. And we are working with her to introduce, again, shelf-stable white and chocolate, but in a lactose-free version. So lactose-free milk there, and we implemented it in the fall, and we saw a lot of, again, good benefits coming out of it. She saw more students ate the school meals and took a milk with their meals when lactose-free milk was offered. They also surveyed their students and found that 11% of the students report drinking lactose-free milk at home. So having it offered in the school building they were able to accommodate those students who require lactose-free milk or who prefer it. And then lastly, the pilot in the fall was so successful that Jessica decided to extend it to all of her high schools for the remainder of the school year. So this is currently ongoing, and they're still offering the lactose-free milk, and we're looking forward to getting some of the results at the end of the school year about the continued, hopefully positive benefits that we're observing from offering the lactose-free milk.
So do you guys share this information publicly on your website or something? This is all interesting to me. I just want to be able to follow along.
Yeah, so we develop case studies that we can share more broadly. We also work with partners to amplify the findings. So we communicate some of these results to like USDA or through SNA channels or sharing with our partners at FRAC. So really amplifying them out to the people who are working with school nutrition directors and even our local dairy councils. So they have, again, it's having tools in the toolbox. So if a school comes to you with an issue, you can say, oh, this pilot, we found out this in Cincinnati Public Schools have worked really well. This may be something you want to consider.
So how do you pick pilot districts for these tests that you guys are doing? Like, can someone like register and be like, hey, like I want to be available or I want to be considered for your next pilot? Or do you guys pick like a certain region for specific reasons?
Yeah. So I'm not involved in the selection process, but I know a number of factors go into it. So at the national level, it's do we have a good relationship with the district? Does the local dairy council have a good relationship with the district as well? Because normally the local dairy councils get pulled in on the pilots. Also, we partner with other people to make it come to life. And so just making sure everyone's aligned and the districts are agreeable to provide data back. So that's the biggest thing. Like we do need to work closely with the district on data collection to be able to prove out some of these findings. So it's really an agreement that's made between the National Dairy Council, sometimes the local dairy council, the district, and additional partners who may be involved in the pilot.
Gotcha. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So what is the most popular flavored milk to consume?
Chocolate by far for my district.
Chocolate by far?
It's about 70-30 chocolate versus white.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you look at the national data, 67% of school milk is flavored milk, and then 33% is unflavored. So flavored milk by far is the favorite milk option in schools.
So whatever happened to strawberry milk? I used to love strawberry milk back in the day.
But it's not as popular. It's my favorite.
Oh, man, I love strawberry milk too. Yeah. So there's all this talk about like sugar and all that stuff in milk and flavored milk. So what's the deal with that? 'Cause, I mean, from what I've heard, there's not that much more sugar in a flavored milk compared to regular milk that nobody wants to drink.
Yeah.
Well, not nobody wants to drink, but
I love
not
white
as
milk.
much as flavored milk. You love what?
Yeah.
I love white milk.
Do you?
I do.
Yeah.
Ice
Well,
cold.
The dairy industry has worked really hard the last 10 plus years collectively to decrease the amount of added sugar in school flavored milk specifically. So school milk is very different than your retail milk.
So you said added sugar. Why
Yes.
did you say added sugar?
Added sugar, because milk has lactose. It's natural sugar. So every 8-ounce cup of milk has 12 grams of lactose. So that's natural sugar. And then with the flavoring, you add additional sugar for that flavoring option.
So can I ask a dumb question? Does
There's no dumb question.
Good job.
Does lactose-free milk have less sugar?
It depends on the process of which they produce it. So there's a new technology called ultrafiltration, and this is the geeks and the science nerds love this. I'm not fully invested in it, but essentially they filter out the components of the milk and they can filter out the lactose. And so then they remove it from the product, and then you may have a lower overall sugar product. But most of the time they just add in a lactase enzyme, which essentially people who are lactose intolerant, they're missing that enzyme in their gut, which means they can't digest it, and that leads to upset tummies.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah. So essentially lactose-free milk, most of the time they just add an enzyme, which allows your body to digest it without having digestive issues.
Okay, so sorry, I completely threw you off with your explanation of the flavored milk.
Oh, no, you're good. I was just mentioning, though, that it's been a big industry effort to reduce added sugars. And over the last 10 plus years, we've decreased the amount of added sugars by over 50% in school milk. And right now we're at, on average, school milk has about 8 grams of added sugar per 8-ounce serving. So there's a big commitment, and the dairy companies just signed on last year to a healthy school milk commitment, which 37 school milk processors, which represents over 90% of school milk supply chain, signed on to it to continue their commitment to provide schools with a lower added sugar flavored milk that meets the proposed standards for school milk programs.
So how does milk compare to juice in terms of, the nutrients inside of it, the sugar?
Well, it's complete. The sugar, I can't speak to the sugar itself, but I mean, they're two totally different food groups.
They are, but I'm just curious.
So as far as the nutrients, they're going to be very different. I mean,
does juice have more sugar typically than milk?
Well, the juice in school meals is required to be 100% fruit juice, and
there's no added sugar.
There's no added sugar, so it's 100% natural. Just like you have your natural sugar in milk, you have natural sugar that's going to come from a fruit juice.
Gotcha. Okay, sorry. See, I have a bunch of questions. I told you.
No, this is good. Yeah.
So what's the next big innovative thing any of you guys are doing?
Well, one thing that I'm working on is for the school year, we've been working on food presentation, increasing food participation, which I feel like increasing what our food looks like will increase the participation. And also, I'm trying to work on student belonging and from a child nutrition standpoint. So how do I make our students feel welcomed when they come into our cafeterias and through our lunch lines? How do I bring out the different cultures that we represent, because we're a very diverse district? How do I represent those different cultures within our district? So that's something that I'm working on.
So what are some of the things that you're doing to make the students feel more welcome? Is that more like a customer service thing? I know you mentioned food presentation. Is it cafeteria space? What are you guys doing?
One thing that I recently had a meeting about from the district level is how do I incorporate some of the different culture foods into our cafeterias? And I know we have to meet certain nutrition recommendations, but for us to truly show different cultures and different meals that they eat, I was thinking more so just doing it as a promotion, so we don't have to alter the nutrition. It'll be a freebie, basically. So this is something that I plan to do for next school year, but I plan to do it maybe in April. I think it's National Food Month, I believe. Okay. And so just highlighting some different cultures, popular cultures throughout our district with some of the entrees that are popular in their culture.
Yeah, well, I think if you offered that yogurt bark thing, whatever it was you were talking about earlier, the kids are going to feel welcomed.
Yes. But that's just one way, like from our standpoint.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, Sheri, what are you guys doing? You guys do a really cool event every year at the Indy 500, don't you?
Oh, well, the whole month of May is an event in Indianapolis. Yeah, it's a busy time. Trying to think. Well, we're having another virtual farm tour.
Okay, when's that?
And that's May 9th.
Where? What farm?
It will be at the farm of this year's Indy 500 milk person. So not everybody knows this, but that is a American Dairy Association Indiana activation is what we would call it, where a milk person is chosen. And it is actually their job to take the milk at the end of the Indy 500 and hand it off to the winning driver.
Really?
It's awesome.
That is cool. I had no idea.
Yes. So, and last year was really neat because the farmer that handed it off to Joseph Newgarden, who won, Joseph had actually been on Carrie's farm. So, like, they knew each other. He handed it off, and he's like, hey, I've been to your farm. So it was really cool. So, to me, another way to, like, give dairy farm families a platform to shine because, again, they're working all the time. Yeah. And I think they're just so involved in their communities. And the month of May, yes, it's a very big deal. But that's, like, the highlight of the month is at the very end. Because I think it's been said that it's, like, I'm going to say this wrong, but it's like the most unique or coolest trophy in sports. Yeah. Is that bottle of milk at the end of the race. Mm-hmm. So yeah, really good stuff. Then a lot of schools do things along with it. Like they have their own little activations around the Indy 500, and then they'll do their own milk toasts and things like that. We have a winner's drink milk kit that we send to kids. So it'll have like a banner and a couple of like little plastic they're just smaller versions of the actual milk bottle. And education, of course, about the benefits and why winners do drink milk.
Is that whole winners drink milk thing an Indiana thing or
Yes.
national? Okay.
It's Indiana, yeah.
Okay.
And what else is, the farm tour. So the farm tour will be May 9th, and it'll be at Alex Neuenschwander's farm. So that's really cool. And then, there's just, we do a lot of things.
Are you guys serving some bomb grilled cheese sandwiches too at that
Well,
event?
not at that event, but come to
event?
Indiana in
You
August.
guys have fun.
Oh
Jeez.
gosh, it's a lot of fun. The Indiana State Fair. Another
Okay.
way we serve our farmers is we serve lots of delicious dairy products, grilled cheese, milkshakes, hand-dipped ice cream, cottage cheese, mozzarella sticks,
Man.
all the things in this really fast-paced 3 weeks of the summer. So
Okay. And
awesome.
that's like a food festival or
it's at the Indiana State Fair.
Oh, okay.
So animals, food, there's other concessionaires, rides, all the things.
That sounds like fun.
It is fun.
Yeah. All right, Katie, what are you guys up to? Anything?
Oh, well, I'll just build. I grew up in Indiana, so when Sheri's talking about the Indy 5 and the fair, just so many good memories. Yeah, it's such a. Indiana's a lovely state.
Yeah.
You guys do so much great work there. But my work this next coming months really focuses on education. We have an upcoming webinar in June where we're going to be sharing out some of the findings from the Cincinnati Public School pilot, really talking about the lactose-free milk and inclusion of dairy in our diets, and a lot about lactose intolerance. So if you have any questions about lactose intolerance, this is definitely a webinar not to miss. And we're going to do a similar session at ANC this year, SNA's annual national conference, sharing those pilot findings and some information on lactose intolerance. And we will have a dairy farmer at our booth this year at ANC. We always have a dairy farmer there, but we'll be bringing them again this year. And so if you guys have any dairy farm questions, Marlon, if you want to stop by, we
I
always
will. Don't
come
worry.
and meet our dairy farmers because they really are, they are just amazing people, and they love what they do, and I'm just so inspired to work for them, and I felt very honored to work for them. They have such a passion for taking care of their animals, the land, and their community, and I feel very fortunate to be able to do what I do in school nutrition because they see it as a priority, and they allow me to work in my passion area. So again, visit us at ANC.
Yeah, well, I was actually at, I think it was the last Florida State show, M&B Products actually brought in a dairy cow to the conference.
Oh, wow.
And it was the star of the show. Everybody had to go take a picture with the cow. It was
Always. If
pretty
there's
awesome.
a cow, they will always be the star of the
Yeah.
show. Yes.
Yeah.
We brought a cow to a conference a few years ago, and the cow's name was Cinnamon, and everybody wanted to take a picture with Cinnamon. But if you think about how removed everyone is from the farm, the fact people are so blown away by seeing a cow. It's not something you see every day. Growing up, people knew farmers all over the board, and now you're just very disconnected from the food environment and the food chain.
Yeah, growing up, I knew nothing about farming at all, like agriculture, nothing, right? And I'm a guy that hates getting my hands dirty, right? So,
What?
yeah, shocker, right? So I was in Minneapolis last year for a wedding, and one of my friends has a farm. She does crops, and her husband does cattle, right? And it's like this whole like regenerative agriculture thing that they have going on. But just being on the farm with the cows was so much fun. Me and my wife got home, and we were like, we want to live on a farm. Meanwhile, I hate getting my hands dirty.
I don't think that would work out for you.
Probably not. But it was just neat, like getting to see exactly like where the food is coming from. It was cool, and my kids would love that. Probably not working on the farm, but they would love to experience
and
it.
just to that point, I think as dietitians, I always, and being a mother also, I've always heard, and it actually does work, where if you involve kids in the prep of their food, they're more likely to eat or drink it. And I relate that to dairy farming. If you can get that connection, adults and children, I feel like they're going to be more likely to trust dairy farming and also see like how much care is put into creating that nutritious product. I just think it piques interest, which is what we want to do with kids. So.
Yeah, and shout out to the farmers. I mean, they have a tough job, and they are some hardworking people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cows need to be milked every day of the year.
They don't get Christmas off.
They don't.
That's wild. That is wild. Well, thank you all so much for being on this episode. Just real quick, kind of go around one more time and just say your name and where people can find you or reach out to you, social media handles, emails, websites, whatever you want.
Yep. Katie Bambacht with National Dairy Council, and I'm on LinkedIn and I'm on Twitter at Katie Bambacht, and please reach out.
Brittany Joyner, Child Nutrition Director at Wayne Township Schools. If you want to just Google MSD of Wayne Township,
Just
you can
Google
find
my
me.
name. That's what she said. Google my name.
You could just find me on our district website. You are hilarious.
I couldn't resist, sorry.
For me, our website is winnersdrinkmilk.com. And we also have socials at at IN Dairy. Yeah, and we have a lot going on in May and in the summertime, so follow us. And June Dairy Month is coming up.
What's that?
It's just June Dairy Month,
Okay.
of course. A whole month of celebrating dairy and what it does for our bodies.
Awesome. Well, ladies, thank you again so much for hopping on with me. I want to go eat lunch at your district one day.
Anytime.
Gotta try this grilled cheese sandwich.
Yes,
and I want to know about all the cool stuff that you guys have going on and help you guys share it and promote because we're all in this together.
Absolutely.
right.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you
so much.